Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Combo Breaker 99 back with another episode of hashtag CB99 Talks. Make sure y'all subscribe. Today I want to cover another fight, man. Another good fight from Saturday night. Jose Ramirez versus Maurice Hooker. This is one of those fights I've been waiting for, man. I've been waiting for another unification of the 140-pound division. And ever since, Terrence Crawford, he unified and became the undisputed champion. He moved up to 147. The belts kind of got scattered, but it's been looking like a lot of the fighters, they've been really trying to pick up where he left off. A lot of them picked up the pieces, and the guys with belts now, they want to unify. You got Regis Progress, him and Josh Taylor, they're about to unify their belts. And now Jose Ramirez, Maurice Hooker, they unified their belts. And Jose Ramirez, he was able to defeat Maurice Hooker by 6-round TKO. And in a fight that I felt was it had its competitive moments, but I felt like Jose, he controlled most of the fight. I felt like he really kind of controlled it with his style and his drive in this one. He was really coming to bring the fight to Maurice Hooker, and I don't really think that Maurice Hooker was prepared for that type of fight. That type of dog, that really type of gritty fight that Ramirez was bringing. And I felt like Ramirez, he wasn't going to stop. So going into the fight, all the way up to like the third and fourth round, I really could see him starting to sit down on his shots, and the type of fight that he was fighting was that, he wasn't going anywhere. And Hooker, he was actually the one that looked like he started to get kind of broken in the fight. Again, like I said, I got to give shout out to both guys. They both wanted this fight, two undefeated fighters with belts. They both signed up for unification, and that's what we want. We want to get closer to one champion. We can't have these belts, all over the place. And, guys over here saying they can't fight. Another guy over here saying, got to talk to my manager. We can't have stuff like that. We got to have guys making that choice saying, hey, he got a belt, I want it. And I feel like Maurice Hooker and Jose Ramirez, they both kind of went in there with that mind frame. And yeah, man, I just want to go back and talk about this fight because it turned out to be, it turned out to be bigger than it was. It wasn't complete back and forth action that, a lot of people were saying it was. It really wasn't like Hooker was really coming back in a moment. I mean, he had his moments in each round, but I really felt like he was really having to fight his ass off in this fight just to get that ground. He was really having to fight for his life in this one, man, and it was a tough one for him. But just going back and looking at the fight, man, round one, I think Hooker was establishing his jab. He was using his reach in the opening seconds, and that's kind of what I felt he had to do. He had to use like a good stiff time jab against a guy like Ramirez, but Ramirez, he was able to set a fast pace and kind of get his own jab going, and that was kind of backing Hooker up. And that's what you don't want to do. If you're a tall fighter, don't back up and kind of shell up whenever that shorter guy starts to come in with an aggressive style. You got to keep slamming that jab in his face and start throwing that right hand in. And if he gets in, you got to be first to tie up and get out of there. But overall, I feel like Ramirez, he started setting his pace, and he started landing his 1-2. And when he got his jab in a couple of times, it was able to open up that for that right hand left hook. And there was a sequence of shots that landed, and Ramirez, he stepped on Hooker's foot. The referee, he did a bad call and called it a knockdown, and that wasn't a knockdown. I couldn't give him a 10-8 round for this. I gave him a 10-9 round just because I felt like when that shot landed, his foot landed right on Hooker's foot, and it wasn't the impact of the shot. He could have held his balance, if even if the shot landed, he would have held his balance, in my opinion. But when that shot landed, he stepped on his foot and he fell back. So the referee called it a knockdown. To me, it wasn't a knockdown, but I feel like Ramirez, he would have won the round anyway just because he was coming on with the more aggressive shots, But Hooker was staying in there, landing some good punches. But overall, Ramirez, he took that one. Round 2 and 3, Hooker, he was able to box a little bit, land some good shots, but to me, he was letting Ramirez control most of the round, like most of the minutes of the rounds. He was pop his jab, but he couldn't really keep it consistent and just keep Ramirez outside, because Ramirez, he would follow up with his own jab and kind of push his way in. And when he would push his way in behind the right, he would just kind of bully Hooker into the ropes. And for a tall guy, for the shorter guy fighting the tall guy, that's what you want to do. You got to smother that reach. And, I think, Hooker has like a 7 or 8 inch reach advantage over Ramirez. But he wasn't really able to, utilize it well because Ramirez was being a dog. He was really pushing and bullying Hooker into the ropes. And when he get him there, he was just like working the body, going up top to the head. And he landed a good right overhand right too once whenever Hooker came off the ropes. But, Hooker, he would kind of stay in there and try to hook with him for real. He would stay in there and try to get off some shots, just to fend off Ramirez. But it wasn't enough to hurt Ramirez or get the respect from him, So those first 3 rounds I did give to Ramirez. Ramirez was really starting to kind of bully with his strength and his style. Round 4, it was probably the first round I gave to Hooker, because I felt like he was able to box more and start landing his hard jab and kind of looked like he almost hurt Ramirez once with some body shots. He landed like a left hook, and Ramirez kind of stepped back and kind of had to, take a moment before he came back in. And Hooker came back with a good sequence of punches. But, Ramirez, he was still staying in there. He just kind of stepped back and, he didn't go right back in there and try to brawl with Hooker, But like I said, man, this type of fight, it was a little bit more than what Maurice Hooker expected, I think. He couldn't just stay in there and box like he wanted to and dog with Ramirez when he wanted to, because I felt like Hooker was the better boxer in this fight. But if he had that other element too, to be a brawler and be a dog fighter too, I feel like he would have came out on top, because he would have been able to dog when he had to and then go back to boxing. And that kind of would have frustrated Ramirez. But I think whenever Ramirez was able to land his shots, those hard hooks, to the head and to the body, even the straight shots, and the way Maurice Hooker would move or react from him, he already knew that he kind of had the fight won. Especially when we go to round 5, this for me is kind of what set up Hooker for that next round TKO, man, because Ramirez was just pressuring him, kind of beating Hooker from one end of the ropes to the other, man. He started like smothering him and had Hooker's arms pinned up, had them long arms pinned up to him while he was just uppercutting and brawling and just kind of like mauling Hooker with those uppercuts and hooks to the body and to the head. And then like they went to one side of the ring and he did the same thing. It kind of looked like he busted up Hooker's mouth and his nose. And by the last minute of that 5th round, Hooker, he started to come on. And this was one of those moments I was talking about where he would kind of fight back and land some of his own big hooks on Ramirez. But it was kind of too fast a pace that I don't really think that Hooker won it, and it kind of took a lot out of him. Ramirez was able to take those big shots from him. And I think that's what was kind of making Hooker uncomfortable. Like when he could see that Ramirez wasn't going anywhere from his shots, it was kind of frustrating him as well as, exhausting him. And going into that last round, Ramirez, he was still applying that pressure, just kind of backing Hooker up. Now he was boxing at a distance. And just as Hooker threw his right hand, Ramirez, he clipped him with a good left hook. And that left hook, buckled him. It took his legs away. Hooker, he went right back into the ropes. And Ramirez, he just unleashed like 5, 6, 7, 8 punches. And the referee had to jump in because that last shot was a violent shot, because that last right hand that landed on Hooker as he was on the ropes, looked like he's about to go down. It just like snapped his head back. And that's when the referee just like stepped in and grabbed him, And I feel like that was a good call. It was a perfect call because he was hurt. You could see it in his eyes. I mean, even from the left hook that clipped him, that shot looked like it had him out and he probably would have went down. But the ropes kept him up. Ramirez went in for that onslaught of shots and just, put him away. It would have really put him away if the ref wasn't there. But yeah, it was a good call. Good fight too, man. Like I said, I don't take another away from the referee. It was a championship fight. He gave him a good 6 rounds. He kept fighting, but it was just that one big shot that really put him out of there. And Maurice Hooker, he vouched for it. He said that he was glad that the referee stopped the fight. It was good because he was hurt. And, it takes a lot of guts to say that. It takes a lot of courage for a man to say he was beaten, and I guess, Hooker, he values his life, and sometimes, life out, not sometimes, but all the time, your life outside of boxing is more important because, you got a lot going on. So I was glad he saw it that way, that, he wanted to live to fight another day. But, yeah, overall, man, just good unification fighting. That's what we want, good unification fights like this between undefeated champions who want to face each other. That's why I say shout out to Maurice Hooker for, putting it all on the line and wanting to test himself. So, this is kind of good where we can actually gauge this guy. Somebody like Maurice Hooker, he actually wanted to take this fight. Same with Ramirez. They both wanted this fight. They both wanted to say, hey, we want to see how good we are. We test ourselves, and we put everything on the line. So yeah, definitely a good fight, man. It's probably the best fight on Saturday night as far as boxing. Yorioka's Gamboa against Martinez, and Tank versus Ricardo Nunes. Both good little entertaining fights for, the hometown crowd of Baltimore. Tank, he did what he was supposed to do against Ricardo Nunes, 2 rounds. He got him out of there. This was on Showtime, but, this was on the other card. But, Tank, he's another big threat coming up, man. I feel like he's a big threat at 130. He could definitely be a big threat at 135. I think he carries that power up well. This was another one where the referee had to step in against for Nunes, because Tank, first round, he kind of was feeling out Ricardo Nunes, the boxing style. He kind of wanted to feel him out, just kind of walk him down. And it looked like Ricardo Nunes kind of wanted to box, and he was kind of doing that the first round. But as Tank closed the distance, he knew he could take them shots. So he said, F all of that. By the second round, he was like, why am I going to box the boxer when I can just knock his ass out? And that's what he did, because he knew he could take the shot. So he walked him straight down and just like started mauling him. And as Ricardo Nunes was like looking up, which I don't know why, this big overhand left just cracked him on the jaw. And that's the shot that put his ass on the ropes. He landed a big sequence of like 8-something punches, and the referee stepped in because, Tank's power is a punch. Tank's punches are some power punches you don't want to really go in there and take that many of. And the referee, he did the right job of stopping the fight on this one, man. They kind of felt it was a controversial stoppage. Jim Gray, he talked to the referee, about the stoppage. He stood by it, which I do too, because you never know which shot it's going to be that could really kill a fighter in there, man. And I felt like he did the right thing. But yeah, man, from here for Tank, Tevin Farmer, he was a co-main event on the DAZN card with Hooker and Ramirez. I'd like to see that fight. Tank, Tevin Farmer, he won his fight by unanimous decision. A lot of people were, kind of booing his fight, but, Tank's, Tevin's, he's a technical boxer. That's what he does. Shout out to Tevin for showing respect to Sweet Pea Whitaker as well. He was in there putting on a very clinical performance, dodging 13 punches, going in there just boxing like he does. But he showed interest in the Tank fight as well. At the end of his fight, he said, hey, Tank signed a contract. They can make it happen end of the year. Tank said after his fight, Tevin Farmer, that's a fight that can happen at the end of the year. Let's make it happen at the end of 2019. And why not? The only thing with that, the question is, Floyd, he wants to make it a pay-per-view fight, but I don't really think it's a pay-per-view fight. I don't think it's that type of fight, man. I think it's a very good, matchup, classic boxer versus puncher, but it doesn't have that much star power where it needs to be pay-per-view, and, I think that might be kind of where it might get held up. But if they do make it a pay-per-view, man, I'm not sure if I'll buy that fight, man. It could definitely be big just shown on Showtime or on DAZN. The numbers are going to be big. If they do come to agreement, it can be shown on both. And that way it can do big numbers for both fighters, It can make big money for both guys. So I think they should just make it televised on Showtime and live on the DAZN app. Because, like I said, it's not enough star power for both of these guys. But, yeah, overall, I want to see that fight. Tevin Farmer versus Tank Davis, definitely, man. But yeah, man, that's all I got on this episode, man. Like I said, shout out to Maurice Hooker and Jose Ramirez. They both put on a good performance, good unification fight. From here, Regis Progress, he's supposed to fight Josh Taylor, and the winner of that fight hopefully fights Jose Ramirez. I know that Regis Progress, he said he wants to fight the winner of Hooker Ramirez, and so hopefully if he beats Josh Taylor, if he can beat Josh Taylor, he'll step in there with Ramirez, and that'll be for all the belts, a la Bud Crawford style. But yeah, man, that's all I got on this one, guys. Definitely want to see that coming up next. Make sure y'all subscribe. #CB99Talks. Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Peace.